Thank you, and it's a privilege to be here. I think generally, even before we get to now Minister Mantashe, I think the cabinet reshuffle is certainly pleasing to us, because I think the president has taken very quick and decisive action, to show his commitment to good governance and integrity, certainly within the state institutions, looking at public enterprises, also looking at finance, energy, and also the mining sector itself. So we are certainly quite pleased with what we have.
And what a turnaround! In a few, just about 3 or 4 months ago, Roger Baxter, your chief, was talking about the last nail in the mining coffin with his mining charter, and now all of a sudden it's all changed. I mean, do you think it's changed enough to save tens of thousands of job losses that are looming in the mining industry right now?
Well, that's a difficult one. I mean, I think, as you know, the sector has shed some, I think it's 75,000 jobs in the last 5 or so years. So the industry has gone through really quite a tough time, and the challenges are still there. So we still really have to address those core challenges. It's good that, yes, the commodity prices are certainly looking up. So they are, we call it green shoots. But there's a lot of things that need to be resolved. I mean, we've spoken quite a bit about the policy and regulatory uncertainty within the mining industry that needs to stabilize for us to get investment into the country. So a lot of those tough things still have to happen. But yes, I think there's been a change in sentiment. I think we are cautiously optimistic of the recent developments. I mean, you had the ANC conference, a new president of the ANC, very new president of the country, sworn in on Thursday. Friday, we had Sona with him expressing some very positive sentiments towards the mining industry, saying that it's a sunrise industry. He wants to see some transformation, some growth within that sector, and that he's quite keen for us to start the negotiation process on a mining charter. And then he actually took action last week, and the presidency then contacted us to say, well, we were willing to postpone the mining charter and start the talks. We said yes. The Monday we accordingly did so. So things have been moving quite fast, and now we've got a new cabinet, which is welcome.
I'd actually want to talk about that sunrise industry, because if you look at the performance of mining shares and the interest of mining stocks on the JSE, I mean, many market commentators still view it as a sunset industry. So are you guys not just being too overly optimistic about the turnaround there?
No, not at all. I mean, if you look at, by all accounts, if you look at the Fraser Institute, they say South Africa is within the top 25 mining jurisdictions in terms of future potential and growth. So the potential is there. I mean, you've heard the stats about that, how we've been endowed with serious resources as an industry. Yes, we've got a long history of mining, but we've still got a long way to go as a sector. And we are, as we like to say, the flywheel of the economy. Yes, we only contribute about 7% to the GDP, but in terms of exports, it's closer to 20%, and we employ large amount of primarily unskilled labor. So the mining industry is still very key, I think, to the future of South Africa. But the important thing, though, is the actual growth potential that it has. I mean, we did a quick study with some of our members, and we said, how would you change your investment decisions if we, excuse me, if we were to get to what we call good governance again in terms of regulatory and legislation? If we were, say, within the top 25%, 16 of our members responded and basically said their plan certainly to be investing about 145 billion rands. They would up the investment by 84%, by a further 122 billion. Now, this is 16 companies, so imagine the greater mining industry. So that's huge potential. So from those numbers, you're looking at an additional 50,000 jobs. So the upside for the industry is still very big. And I think that's why I think the president actually recognizes that.
Okay, well, I mean, I'm sure that a lot more stability is going to do a lot of good, but at this particular stage, we're hearing in platinum mining alone, something like 22,000 jobs could go very, very soon. We've got 1,700 jobs going in Evander as well. It does look like difficult times to be negotiating a mining charter.
Yeah, we're certainly not out of the woods, as we said. The industry is, especially certain commodities are still in dire straits, and they really need some key changes to happen before, you know, they can turn around.
And that's the thing, though, because of those negotiations right now, the difficulty that you're in. How much room are you leaving for disappointment, particularly in the way or in the form of the charter that actually might be put on the table? We've seen presidents, you know, don't actually have that much of power. You just look at the US and you see a president after a year who hasn't really delivered on the things that he would have liked to. So as the industry, how much room are you leaving for disappointment that President Ramaphosa might not actually be able to give you the charter you want?
Look, I think one thing that is important is what is he starting now, and a negotiation process. So whatever comes out of it is a negotiated charter. It's not going to be perfect. I mean, it's a bit of win and lose by all parties, but it will be something that each sector can actually, well, each party, the mining sector, communities, labor can actually commit to. So it's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be something that we can defend.
And also, talk a little bit more about Gwede Mantashe himself. He's a man who's worked down the mine. He's a man who's been on the picket lines. He negotiated with the employers for many, many years, I recall. What do you think his approach is going to be to the mining charter when you do sit down? And how long do you think it might take for a new rewrite to come up?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think Gwede Mantashe is a man of integrity. He certainly understands the industry. We have a long history of having engaged him for some time. He's a tough negotiator, so it's not going to be easy for the mining industry. But at the end of the day, though, we welcome that. I mean, somebody that understands the industry that you can engage. So it's certainly a welcome step forward for the mining industry. Now, as to how long it will take to negotiate the charter, I mean, that's a very difficult one to assess because, yes, you've got community groupings that are also going to be involved. I mean, in the 2004 charter, remember it was mining industry, unions, the government departments, and I think you had a community representation through Royal Bafokeng. In the 2010 charter, there were no communities represented, but this time it will. So we've got to reconfigure how we do that negotiation process and then embark on it. So it's a bit difficult to give timelines though. So.
Well, that's one question I've got. I mean, one of the stories we ran last week was how the communities now are going to be given a greater voice in negotiations, which, you know, from a human rights perspective, is fantastic. I mean, you've got people are living in villages, people pitch up with mining equipment and start digging in their fields, and sometimes they've got no control over it. I mean, I've seen riots happen because of these things, but isn't it going to make the process more complicated with more voices in there and perhaps dissenting voices?
I think what we've got to settle very quickly how we're going to give the community representation, or how they're going to essentially organize themselves so that they are responsive to and also ultimately accountable to their constituencies. And I mean, it's not rocket science. Other sectors of the economy have done it. I mean, if you look at the financial sector charter, there's community representation and other stakeholders. It is certainly doable. It's not easy, but certainly doable.
I mean, Tebello, another thing that the President mentioned in his State of the Nation address was that too many people are dying at the mines of some of your members. Too many people are getting hurt. What are you guys doing to ensure that that number comes down, and perhaps maybe more punitive measures on some of the mining companies that aren't ramping up safety as much as they should?
This is a matter of great concern to the industry, and one must actually also just look at how the industry has changed since the dawn of democracy. I mean, we've literally had fatalities coming down tremendously. I think we've got like an 88% increase essentially since the dawn of democracy. 2017 was sadly a year where they spiked, but we would like to think that with the various initiatives that we have in place in terms of doing greater research in the industry, the CEOs taking direct leadership and visible felt leadership on these matters, and also our operations, I mean, for the technical side, improving on safety. We'd like to think that they will bear fruit. I mean, 2017 was an unfortunate year, and the industry recognizes that, but we do think that we are always on the path of trying to reach zero harm, because every single worker should go home after work.